G'day, Jashy. How you going?
Not too bad, Pato. How are you, mate?
Yeah, really good, really good. Well done on a great performance at Sydney's.
Yeah, thanks very much. It was quite the effort.
Yeah, 100. It looks like it. I mean, since you were on the podcast last year, you've run in two backyard ultras, the Sat Champs and now Sydney's. And I mean, I think you've well and truly proven that like you're the real deal.
Oh, thanks for saying that. It feels like such a long time ago since I was on. I can't believe it's only been two backyards, but yeah, they have been two very big backyards in retrospect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. 155 yards combined in those two backyards. So.
Ooh, that's a lot. That's getting up there.
So yeah, I mean, Sat Champs in Perth was an epic race. I guess first of all, what memories stand out to you about that race?
I mean, it's going back a ways now, but I think for a lot of people, obviously Ryan and Phil bringing it home. Um, Interestingly, the time that I'd finished, I actually came in with Dan Kmack, who was another interesting story. But I came in, had a sleep, ended up going to the hospital for just an inspection of my ankle
Uh-huh.
because there was some swelling, and the doctor who I saw was a little bit concerned about it, but turned out to be no issue at all.
Yeah.
Uh, but we managed to do all of that and then come back. And Phil and Ryan was still running, and it was just the most incredible experience given how far we felt that we had gone, and that yeah, to watch them come in and to see that all unfold, like to have a literal front row seat to that was just the most incredible experience of my life. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was. And I mean, you did 75 yards there. And I remember when you were on the podcast last, you were kind of like still figuring out who was going to be there to crew you and stuff. And you ended up having a quite a big crew. It was obvious that they brought a really positive vibe, and they're a big reason why you do so well in these races.
That's right. I think I've noticed that I tend to have probably a couple more people than the average. Some people like to do two or three, but yeah, I'm not against having more like four in the tent at one time. But I admit that it gets quite crowded. But yeah, I tend to feed off sort of that positive energy of the people around me. Like we're very much into to cracking jokes and just keeping that positive vibe going.
Yeah.
Um, I think not that everybody else takes it super seriously. I think everyone has a different approach, but yeah, I think I sort of tend towards that more light-hearted, let's just all have a joke and and get on with it type of vibe.
Yeah. Well, I'll ask about this more later, but I will say that, like, even in the footage of you in the chair, just
Mm.
before you get up to have a go at that 81st yard at Sydney's, I mean, you're still smiling then. It still looks like you're having a good time.
And that was, I think, a key thing going into Sydney was I wanted to make sure that my mindset was consistent throughout, if that makes sense. Like with Sat Champs, I kind of felt like I lost myself a little bit towards the end,
Right.
particularly past that 3 day mark, that 72 hours to 75. It was almost just like you're a zombie just sort of trudging along. And I think I came in after the 75th lap, so the lap before I DNF'd, and I can remember being quite confused. I almost thought, I think I said something along the lines of, haven't I already DNF'd?
Right.
So, and that may have just been my mind making all sorts of excuses as to, well, just give up now anyway. And I think I was quite obviously physically done at the time. But yeah, I think back and go, well, maybe it was really my mind that gave out first then. So going into Sydney's definitely was just like, accept that you're going to slow down, but stay positive and just keep going for as long as the body's capable.
Yeah. And with Sat Champs, when you did finish on yard 75, that would have been like in the middle of the night as well, right?
Yeah, that's towards the end. I think it's either 11 o'clock or somewhere around then, from memory.
Yeah.
So it was, yeah, getting towards that later end. So it was that point in the night which I really struggle with, where it's so far from the morning that there's not any sort of hope. And you're just like, I got to trudge this out for a couple more hours before I can even start trying to trick myself into thinking that the sun's going to come up in a couple of hours. It's a really tricky spot that I've certainly dealt with multiple times. Yeah.
Yeah. Leading into the Sat Champs, like how were you feeling? Like were you nervous? Were you excited? Was it a mixture of the two?
I have to admit, I felt a little bit of, I guess they call it imposter syndrome.
Mm,
Having sort of everything's happened really quickly. I actually just spoke to Jimmy B very briefly about this just at Sydney's. Having come up fairly quickly, and he went through the same thing, obviously going to Bigs quite quickly. I didn't see myself as the same sort of runner as the people that I was running with.
mm,
And so I felt not so much pressure, but I'm like, I need to go a long way to show that I'm actually supposed to be here. And nobody was putting that pressure on me apart from myself, but it was just that feeling of, I don't know whether I'm just a regular guy from, down Shell Harbour way.
yeah.
Nobody really knows me down here. I'm not some local celebrity or anything like that. And here I am, running with the world's best ultra runner. It was very surreal.
Yeah, and like would have been the first time you met anyone in the team.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got the impression like it was an awesome team vibe. Everyone made you feel welcome and everything like
Oh,
that.
yeah, it was incredible. Like just literally the whole team. I couldn't fault anybody. I mean, some people obviously I wasn't running with nearly as often, but everybody that I spoke to was sort of real welcoming and positive. And yeah, for the times that I did run with them, I mean, especially the likes of Tim Kaprazak and Joel Sexton, who I was running with a lot. And then towards the later stages, there was Jimmy B and Ryan Crawford as well. We
Mm,
just sort of formed that bond. And Michael Belmont as well, to a certain extent, just sort of people you're running with. I mean, everybody, now that I think about it. It's
yeah.
like, yeah,
Um,
really good.
yeah, so I mean, your PB was 57 going into the Sat Champs, which is unreal. But what changes, if any, did you make for the Sat Champs?
I think I spoke about this in the last podcast. I was struggling a little bit because Reds went really well.
Mm,
There weren't any major issues apart from a little bit of foot sort of blistering and pain and stuff like that wasn't a huge concern at the time. And so I went in really blind,
mm,
and didn't make any real major changes. I'm like, well, if that worked last time, I'll try the same approach again. But really, everything kind of went wrong. I mean, obviously, it went really well, but the food that I was eating, the drinks that I was drinking, the way that I was trying to get sleep in, nothing seemed to be working the same. And yeah, Sat Champs, to be honest, was quite a battle, despite the result, which was obviously brilliant.
yeah,
It was quite confronting very early on how hard it got, and I think that was a fairly common pain amongst quite a few of the runners there. Weather
mm.
might have had something to do with it as well, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely wasn't an easy backyard ultra. I mean, the late start would have made it a bit tricky, and that, like you mentioned, the first couple of nights were extremely windy at times
Mm.
and wet as well. So how did you manage the first 24 to 48 hours?
I think the first 24 was okay because you get the night out of the way first with that starting time. You're very fresh on that first night, which is nice. Like, and I sort of hypothesized with the runners that I'm like, I feel like each night is going to be proportionately or comparatively rather easier to get through than the equivalent when you're starting in the morning.
Yeah.
But then the rest of the days will become more difficult.
Mm,
And yeah, I really did feel that. So getting through to 24 probably was just as hard as it would be on a normal backyard, even though you're coming through it at the end of the day as opposed to at the start of the morning. So you don't get that uplifting effect at the end of 24 hours
yeah.
that ways, but it was easy to get there in the first place. But then, yeah, obviously that second night comes on and you're like, oh, this is really early for feeling this bad.
So you did mention you had at Reds you had some blistering on your feet and stuff like that. And I noticed on the second night you were getting quite a lot of work done on your feet between
Mm.
loops. So was that like a proactive measure?
A little bit, yeah. I could tell I've had issues in the past and continuing, though it is reducing, with just losing toenails. And I think that might have something to do with the way that I run. I have a feeling that I'm a bit of a toe scruncher.
Right.
And it just sort of causes that friction at the edge of the nail up against the shoe that causes them to fall off. So, but we were finding as soon as we started to feel any sort of pain, we would immediately tape it, and then we would sort of subsequently tape the ones adjacent because the ones next to them would start hurting.
Yeah.
So yeah, most of that was proactive. My feet themselves weren't too bad by the end. I did lose a couple of toenails in the end anyway, but yeah, compared to Reds, probably were better than previous. Yeah,
Yeah. The other thing with Herdies is the surface. A lot of it's run on asphalt, like and that, opposed to Reds, which is, I believe, mainly grass. So,
yeah.
did that have much of an impact running on the harder surface?
Um, it felt a little bit like it did. I found the night difficult running on the asphalt. I think some people found it easier,
Right.
and I can understand that either sort of option. Whereas, yeah, when you're just running on grass, really the night is very doable. It's a very forgiving surface. So it's yeah. During the days, I didn't have any issues with the course and any of the types of surfaces. It was quite a good course. And I mean, Herd is itself is very flat too. So even if it is a little bit less forgiving on the feet, you can sort of slow it down much more easily without running into any sort of time issues.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, like we mentioned, your PB before the Sat Champs was 57 yards. And when we spoke, like you said, like I mean, it sounded like you had a lot left in the tank. So when you finished that race, so how are you feeling at the 57 yard mark at the Sat Champs compared to Reds?
Oh, awful.
Oh, really?
I have a feeling I'm trying to think of how the days worked out. I think it was towards the end of was it the third night potentially?
Right.
Because the nights were coming earlier.
Yeah.
I think it might have just been as the sun was coming up, if I've got my timing
Yeah,
right.
that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that was obviously the first time I'd been through a third night, and there was that psychological push through to your PB, but that third night was with the crew. It was all hands on deck, just having mental breakdowns every so often.
Yeah.
Still coming in okay. I never sort of was at threat time wise, but just I couldn't get my head into gear, and drinking and eating was struggling. I was trying all different foods. Oh, and also was having an issue with my lungs,
Right.
where I think it was just the dust from the day combined with the temperature changes, because it was obviously those wild fluctuations in the first couple of nights was starting to play havoc with my lungs. It's had this build up, and felt like I couldn't breathe properly. And
Right.
yeah, that was just really sort of psyching me out because I didn't feel like I could push hard, even if I wanted to make up a bit of time and sort of get a few walking breaks in. It was more I had to go at a slower, steady pace and just go for it.
Yeah. So I mean, it sounded like you battled for a while. Like, how did you manage to just keep on going out and just doing one more yard after another yard when you were feeling like that?
I mean, I think the crew definitely helped. I mean, we still tried to sort of stay, you know, level headed and stay on top of things and keep a positive mindset going. I mean, at the end of the day, I still had sort of legs left. And I mean, how often do you get to represent your country? So even if it is hard, you're kind of expecting it to be hard
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
Once you head into that uncharted territory, it's a little bit like you just keep going out and see what you can come back with. But yeah, there was definitely some expectation management of, all right, we're going to be getting slower from here. It's only going to go in one direction, but
Yeah.
so we push through it.
Yeah. I mean, Australia was such a strong backyard ultra running nation. We finished second at the Sat Champs, and the team was absolutely chocolate block, full of superstars. So, and like we said, like it was the first time you met any of them. So, what did you learn from running with all of those legends?
Um, want to say a lot. I
Yeah.
can't think of anything immediately off the top of my head, but everybody's got slightly different approaches, but definitely like nutrition strategies, the way they approach the laps, like the likes of Rob Parsons has a very strict run walk strategy. He prefers his shorter breaks,
Mm,
but as a result, he's very rigorous with the way he does things like sleep laps, where he'll just literally come in, lie down, and then get back up and get back out. So there's none of that trying to fiddle around with anything. It's like if the lap is for sleeping, then that is all he will do on that lap.
yeah.
So there's a lot of insights to be gained in just the different approaches to the way people. I mean, food was a huge thing because I was struggling with the type of food that I was eating. So I was sort of speaking around to guys. I think talking to Ben Nichols and Tim and I think Chris Martin as well, just about different food options.
Mm,
And yeah, they ended up saving my backside quite quite a lot because there was stuff that we didn't bring that we went out then and bought after having that discussion of actually that sounds like it'd be all right. Quickly
yeah,
go and get
yeah,
it. So yeah, that was really handy from that point of view. And just yeah, I mean mentally having people that are that just strong around um just it helps to keep you calm and keep you focused on what you're trying to do.
yeah.
Yeah.
Were there any performances that you witnessed at the Sat Champs that really? I mean, there were so many, but were there any that really stood out to you?
I mean, I think Dan K-Mac's obviously the obvious one. I mean, he got 75, but completely overshadowed my 75 because I mean, mine was done in a more traditional fashion of just sort of keep going slowly,
Yeah,
slowly get slower and then stop. Whereas he looked done for all money for such a short time in,
yeah,
and then he just battled it out for hours. And just to see that grit and determination, I mean, there was so much to be taken from that, and a little bit that I tried to take, obviously, more recently in Sydney from the idea that, yeah, even if you're going through a rough patch, you can just sort of push through um, and just sort of plot it out for a while, and you can get further than you would have thought.
yeah, for sure. So how did your race end after the 75 yards?
I ran out. I think I I was still having the issue with my lungs. I sort of went out at a walk crawl, and I could tell that I wasn't feeling 100%. Went to cough and then nearly sort of threw up just because I had this sort of stuff on the back of my throat. Didn't actually throw up. It was just, yeah, sort of getting stuff out of my lungs, I think.
Mm.
And I remember having Ollie there, Ollie Kaprazak, shouting at me to go. Come on, Jashy, just one more. Just get a plod going, get a trot, come on. And so I'm like, these guys aren't going to let me quit right here. And so I've run a little bit further. I think about 100 meters. We were still within shouting distance of the corral, um, but far enough away that I kind of felt like I could break back into a casual walk. And then I encountered Dan K-Mac there, sort of, he just stopped and he was just done as well. And I think we may have both given ourselves a bit of an excuse to stop because
Right.
we were kind of both in that case of we need to stop, but they won't let us stop. So let's just if we're going together. There was a little bit of that aspect to it, I think, but yeah, we were very deep in, and so it was. Yeah, I could tell physically that I was done, and I mean, I'd like to say that I could have, pushed out one more lap, and maybe I could have. Um, you always think back about these things. Oh, I could have done one more,
Yeah.
but I think mentally I was just completely. I'd lost myself, as I said. Like I
Mm.
just, yeah, didn't feel like I was there anymore, and that's a pretty scary place to be at.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially at night time, I guess.
Yeah, and I think something similar may have happened to Tim and Jimmy based on my discussions with them. They were kind of in that stage where they were just in and out of not consciousness, but yeah, they almost forgot what it was
Yeah.
that they were doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then they reached a point where I think Tim had a fall. yeah, I'll let him tell the story, but yeah. Then they sort of said, no, that's enough. So yeah, I can completely relate to that.
Yeah, definitely. The I read on a comment on Strava. You commented that you had like tenosynovitis. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah, so that was what we went to the emergency room for, because we originally went just to a medical center, and the doctor who saw me was a little bit worried because you tell them what you're up to, and that doesn't really process. It's
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, I've just gone to run 500 Ks, and he goes, "Oh,
mm,
when did it start hurting?" And I mean, to be honest, it had started hurting about 300 Ks in,
yeah,
so it was a long way to run on a fairly uh, fairly sore tendon. It was just it's the tendon, the tibialis. So it's the tendon that raises the foot. So it was more just the excessive walking that was doing it.
right.
So running was okay.
Yeah,
I could do that almost completely pain free, but as soon as I tried to break into any sort of reasonable walk, it would start to hurt.
mm,
Um, but yeah, went to see the the medical center about it. The doctor's just gone, I think you need to go to emergency just to get them to check you out,
right.
which we did. And then they rushed us through, which is always a concern because
Yeah,
if it's not important, generally you sit, in an emergency for a couple of hours, but they pushed us right through. But then the physios there saw us and said, no, based on what you've described, it's just an overuse injury from running too much. They gave us some antibiotics because there was a bit of an infection there from
right.
just rubbing and things like that. But they gave us a sleeve for the swelling, and that was it.
Yeah,
And yeah,
and
it just healed over time.
yeah, and that was the first time you've ever had something like that happen.
It's the first time it's ever been that severe. I have a feeling, and I've actually got something similar now with the back of my foot with a little bit of swelling. Oh, sorry, with the back of my leg with a bit of swelling.
Yeah,
And I seem to remember something similar, but nowhere near severe after Reds.
right.
And when I did Cough's Backyard Ultra as well, I remember something, but it cleared up after a day or two. So it wasn't anything I ever really gave much thought about.
Yeah, and so when they rushed you through, is that just because they saw what your foot liked, or were you looking delirious and they
No.
thought like, well,
Maybe I should have handed up or even could have. No, I think that was just based on the what's it called, that the piece of paper, the diagnosis or
right,
the
yeah,
form that the medical doctor had said it's probable this, but they were concerned about an infection in the joint.
right, yeah,
And so I think as soon as they're using that sort of terminology, the triage nurses will go, oh, all right, we'll push this through very quickly because it's, we've seen medical advice before going to emergency. So
yeah,
it's, yeah, potentially something that needs to be looked at sooner rather than later.
yeah, sure. So if there was if you could pinpoint the most important thing or the biggest thing that you learned from the experience at the Sat Champs, what would you say it was?
I feel like I should know the answer to this question because it's like it was everything. Like I felt like I wasn't doing anything nearly as well as some of the other people there. Just their plans were tighter. Their nutrition seemed to be far more on point. Um, and I mean, even like the training and stuff that people were doing leading up just was better. And so for me, it was just like, all right, you got to start looking after these sort of 1% type of items because I think I've been doing the larger stuff well.
Mm,
But yeah, to obviously to get to that last sort of little, you know, properly top of your field, you really do need to start looking across everything.
yeah,
So yeah, it was, as I said, it was quite eye-opening. I think I changed my training style a little bit afterwards to be a little bit more slower and more controlled, a little bit less of that sort of zone two stuff that's very common with marathons.
mm,
A lot more race specific type of paces. Um, and yeah, just changed my nutrition, almost upended it completely.
right, yeah.
Um, just eating completely different stuff for Sydney. So yeah,
Yeah. Because one thing that on the podcast last time you were on, it sounded like you had your nutrition down pat. Like,
that's right.
and one of your tips was like to eat. protein and stuff like that. So
It just, I still stand by, and I still think it's important to get that periodically. And I think Gabby Villas said as much on the with your podcast with her,
yeah,
and on other podcasts as well, the importance of getting, particularly for these super long events, a regular amount of protein. I think she says somewhere in the order of 4 to 6 grams per hour, not necessarily each hour, but adding up to that. So yeah, still firmly sort of stand by that particular thing. But a lot of the other different types of foods and the drinks that I was drinking have not abandoned, but almost changed entirely.
wow, okay,
Yeah.
yeah, cool. Um, so and another thing you mentioned when you were on last time, and you kind of touched on it before, like feeling like you kind of had this, you described it as imposter syndrome. Um, So, I mean, I guess the thing is, how did running the 75 yards change the way you thought of yourself as a backyard ultra runner after the Sat Champs?
Yeah, it definitely felt like I was suddenly, you know, I had earned that place, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
With yeah, it was good. It sort of suddenly you stopped thinking about just, well, I need to do well enough so not to embarrass myself, and you actually start thinking, all right, well, how do we go further?
yeah,
How do we go really far? Whether or not it's possible or not. But yeah, the goals have definitely changed since moving away from that. I just want to do well so as not to embarrass myself, and yeah, more moving towards, well, how far can we go type of
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's unreal. Um, so, I mean, I've been a few runners who are at that Sat Champs who haven't run a backyard ultra since. Um, how long did it take you to start getting excited to run another one?
Um, I mean, obviously had the ankle issue, which I think took me out for, hang on, I can check this because I've got Strava open in another window. Bear with me a moment. It's not loading, of course. It's only a couple of weeks before I was back into like mild running,
Yeah,
like a bit of walking and stuff like that. Yeah. Um, but in terms of the drive, yeah, it was almost straight away. I know of some people talk about just after doing one, they just never want to do one again for
yeah,
a long time.
yeah,
I maybe have had a little bit of that after Sydney's, but yeah, after Sat Champs, I think I was more fired up than anything. I'm like, all
yeah.
right, let's do it. Yeah, let's see what we can really do.
Yeah, cool. And when did you lock Sydney's in?
Well, I'd actually entered Sydney's prior to Reds,
Oh,
that I got into Sat Champs. So that was the October Sydney's. So I bought a ticket, and obviously it was 1 or 2 weeks um, nearby Sat Champs, and so I messaged Alex, one of the race organisers, and said, "Look, sorry, mate, I'm obviously not going to be able to make this year's event. Any chance I can get a deferral to next year?" And he was very accommodating and said, "Yeah, sure, absolutely, no worries."
yeah.
Um, and so yeah, just carried that across to Sydney's, and then obviously all of the subsequent announcements, Phil running, and then Ryan and Jimmy B, that sort of came after the fact, so I was there already.
Yeah. Um, so what kind of metrics, and this might have changed since Sydney's, but what kind of metrics do you like to hit in your training weeks leading up to a backyard ultra?
It has sort of changed. I find moving towards slightly more sort of easy Ks has made it easier to hit sort of larger numbers. I
Yeah.
think I hit 160 Ks once this training cycle, and it wasn't a full length training cycle. I think it was only about 10 weeks in total.
Mm.
Generally, I like to get up into the 140s for a couple of weeks,
Yeah.
with potentially one sort of down week. But yeah, it would peak out in that sort of high 140s. But yeah, but seeing the way the body's responded to that 160 week, I wouldn't mind trying once the time allows to try and push back up to that level again. Um, I
Yeah.
generally will do almost a consistent build, peak out, and then a longer taper, sort of that 3 weeks, which is not super long, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it works for me, it seems.
Yeah. Yeah. And you think you'll probably stick to that kind of game plan?
I think so, yeah. Like there's not enough time
Yeah.
before dead cow
Yeah.
to really try and muck with anything. I'll obviously try and fully recover and then just basically gradually build up as much as the body can take. So if that only ends up being 120 Ks, I mean, I think I've got the Ks in the legs to support that, which is usually the case with running sort of multiple in a year.
Mm.
You can rely on the previous backyard ultra experience as opposed to having to hit that. Whereas before this one, there was obviously a big gap between Sat Champs and this one. So I did want to get, a decent block in beforehand.
Yeah. I notice you do a lot of simulation runs.
Mm. Which it surprises me that more backyard runners don't. I find them absolutely what's the word? I really enjoy them and I find them important for just getting into that mode. Like you get into that backyard mindset of this is how much time I've got. I do a lot of them self-supported, so it
Yeah.
puts that little bit of extra time pressure on it as well, which I like. Because when you come to the real deal, 10 minutes when you're doing your own bottles and sourcing your own food and stuff feels very rushed, but you do 10 minutes when you've got, a pit crew around you getting everything for you ready. It just feels so much more relaxed. But you still know everything that you need to do because you've got all that practice in.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Did so at Sydney's, was there anything that you planned that was on your plan that was different because of your experience at the Sat Champs?
Yes, I planned definitely more faster laps, and I think that's the Phil influence, isn't it?
Yeah.
Watching Phil go about his business. I mean, he does a three fast lap, sort of one slow lap cycle. I knew I wouldn't be able to emulate anything like that. So I went sort of one on, one off during the nights
Yeah.
to try and get a little bit more extra sleep. And I found that was really important. And definitely got a lot more sleep this time around than I ever have before in a backyard. And yeah, compared to previous backyards, the sleep deprivation symptoms just weren't there this time around. It really does work, but it does take a physical toll, unfortunately. So there is a balance there that you've
Yeah.
sort of got to work out for yourself because everybody has a different fitness level.
I was going to say, like, doing that one slow, one fast, does it kind of like put you into like a rhythm and like it's easy to get through the
Mm.
night because like you're changing things. It makes it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think, yeah, it's something that I will definitely emulate in the next backyard is having that. It breaks up the night because it's chunking it into these 2 hour things. It gives you a purpose every second loop or every loop really, where you feel like, all right, this time you're just sort of staying relaxed, trying to get a little bit of extra food in on the lap maybe. And yeah, just, letting yourself calm down and slow down. And then the next one, you try and sort of push it a little bit with that slower finish just so that you can calm back down to get back to sleep. But yeah, it's yeah, I found it worked fantastically.
Yeah, excellent. Now there was a lot of hype going into Sydney's in
That's
regard.
saying
Yeah, there was like a lot of talk about breaking 100 yards, breaking the world record, and things like that. And it was an awesome field. Like it was over 400 runners. There was yourself, Ryan Crawford, James Blanton, and Phil Gore. They were the big draw cards.
mm.
Um, but like, what were you thinking, like leading into those? What kind of numbers did you think were likely?
Well, because I'd won Sydney's last year in April with 42, which is kind of it seems almost tiny by comparison, but 42 was a lot
Yeah,
even then. So I was familiar with the area. So Um, David Benny, the other race director, he's made a lot of changes to the course that have taken a lot of the vert out of it. He was saying he's got it down to 35. I think I was coming out closer to probably to 50. Um, so it wasn't completely flat, but it was definitely flatter than previous. But I knew what the surface was like, and I mean, everyone wants to sort of talk it up as this will be world record. I knew who was running. I knew what I could do. And yeah, I had to be honest, I didn't think even going in that it was likely a world record
Yeah.
would fall. I was prepared for it. Um, but yeah, it seemed to be less likely. And so yeah, I was expecting maybe 90s.
Yeah.
And so not that 80 is a disappointment. It's I've looked it up. It's something like, there's only been somewhere in the order of was it 6 or something non-bigs events that have
Yeah.
hit those sorts of numbers previously. It's
Yeah.
5 or 6, I think. I
It would
mean,
be something like that. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
get them
very
off
rare. It's
themselves.
very rare. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very rare for an event to go to 80.
Yeah.
So people get caught up in this idea that these numbers are just going to go up forever. But the fact is, you still have to do every single.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and were you messaging the other blokes? I mean, leading into the race, like getting familiar with their plan and talk, like giving each other encouragement or anything like that?
A little bit. I wouldn't say I'm super close with any of the guys. I mean, I'm very, very happy to chat to them out there. And I think I, said to Jimmy, looking forward to seeing you and those sorts of things. But yeah, not sort of coordinating any grand strategies or anything like that before. I mean, I'm up for it if that's the way they want to go. But yeah, yeah, it was more everybody sort of stuck to their plans, and it was the usual pleasantries and stuff beforehand.
Yeah, cool. And what about how were you like we mentioned it, we compared the 57 to the 57. What about this time when you're in the 50s? How are you feeling at Sydney's compared to the other two times?
Much better, if memory serves me. Like head was in a completely different space. I wasn't that far off. It had a lap with Kendall.
Right.
I don't know how closely you were following the race,
Yeah.
but there was a young fella named Kendall who I think was he Puerto Rican?
Yeah, that was all he'd been crewed by Sam Harvey, right?
Yeah, he was crewed by
Yeah.
Sam, and Sam
And
actually
Twin-
hung out
and
in that
Twin-
tent for a couple of times.
oh, really?
It was quite surreal, to be
Yeah.
honest. It was, just hanging around, having a chat. It
Yeah,
was good.
awesome. And
But
Kendall was like only 21 or something like that, I think.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So this young fella who he wouldn't stop. Like he was just absolutely smashing it. And he got to 50 and he was clearly done. And I said to Sam, I said, mate, I can take him out for one more. I'll pace him at 57. So we went at 57-minute pace for the entire time. And it was this incredibly uplifting experience,
Yeah.
truth be told, of, helping this other runner get to what is a massive milestone of, 50 yards. Hugely, like, that's something that only very few people have done ever. And to do it so young was amazing. Um, and so I was still on a bit of a high after that for quite a few laps afterwards. Got through the day without any real troubles at all. So yeah, rocking up to that 57. I don't even know if I specifically remember it because it was a past milestone. So yeah, when your PB 75, it's sort of you're not really thinking about past milestones anymore.
Yeah, but you must have been feeling really good to be so confident to run a loop in 57 minutes and do it and then just go out and keep on going. I mean, you must have been feeling awesome.
Yeah, I felt really good at that stage. And doing the 57 loop, afterwards, I actually felt even better, like just taking the brakes off for a while. And I think there's a lesson to be learned potentially for next year's Sat Champs about I know it's the approach that the Belgians take, where
Mm.
I believe they have some sort of rotation where if somebody's struggling and they want assistance, that they'll have a stronger runner sort of stay with them. We were doing a little bit of that at Sat Champs, but it wasn't very structured.
Right. Yeah.
And so that's the thing, you can do that once. And that's what I did. I did it once and then I did a fast lap so
Yeah.
that I had enough time afterwards to get anything else that I might have missed previously. Whereas if you're doing them lap after lap after lap, obviously you go into that death spiral territory, which
Yeah.
is not so great. But yeah, I don't think it had any effect. If anything, a positive effect
Yeah.
on my race as a whole, running that 57
Yeah.
earlier on. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. Awesome. So at the 51st yard, there were the four of you left: you, James, Ryan, and Phil. So was it a similar vibe to the Sat Champs where you were working together towards a high total for the country, or was it a little bit different to that this time?
I felt like it was a little bit similar because, I think there wasn't any sort of prize money or anything at stake. So we were just running for that credibility with there for, was the, I think they confirmed it as the biggest backyard in the world, because they had enough entries, but there was nothing on the line apart from the idea that we would be pushing. So yeah, there was certainly I wasn't aware of any mind games that were going on.
Mm.
And it's not usually the case with Ryan and Jimmy. They're usually more than happy to hang around, have a chat. Um, and yeah, we were just going about our business really. And so yeah, it did have a very similar vibe, but yeah, probably with slightly less people, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, did the performance at the set, like when you're in this position at Sydney's with Phil, Ryan, and James, did you feel like after Sat Champs, like, were you, yes, I belong amongst these blokes, or were you still kind of feeling, gee, I can't believe I'm here in the final four with these three guys?
No, I had a sense. I think we all did that we knew who the final four, barring some sort of disaster.
Yeah,
I think everybody there knew who the final four was going to be, and
yeah,
yeah, it was fairly set, fairly early on. It was good to see somebody get into the 50s, but I was kind of hoping that there might be some sort of dark horse that would come through, run into high 50s or even the 60s, get
yeah.
onto the Sat Champs back, what do you call at large list?
Mm.
Because I think it's what 56 is the
Yeah, it's about that.
minimum at the moment. But yeah, didn't unfortunately, yeah, nobody came out of the woodwork this time.
Mm. I mean, so James dropped after completing 65 yards. I mean, proving once again how tough he is. But was he
Mm.
showing signs that he was going to stop, or were you surprised when he dropped?
He was dropping back, and I'd mentioned to Ryan because I mean, obviously, having done the thing I'd done with Kendall, I think I had a chat with Ryan to the effect of I noticed Jimmy's dropping off. I know what Jimmy's like to a certain extent. I don't think he's the kind of runner that sort of needs somebody there, coaching him around for
Yeah,
that 57 loop. I said to Ryan, you probably know what he needs more than I do. But yeah, we definitely noticed that he had started to fall back, sort of in the 60s,
mm,
I think, and then yeah, it wasn't a huge surprise because yeah, he had gotten a fair bit slower towards the end there.
yeah, yeah. And at this stage of the race, how were you feeling?
I mean, still pretty tired.
Yeah,
It's the course is, as I said, it's flatter, but there's just so many parts to it. So in order to flatten it out, it doubles back on itself a lot. There's a lot of just sort of these areas where you don't feel like you're actually making any progress.
right.
And I think particularly at night, it just felt like it was longer than 6.7 Ks. I actually think Phil said that his watch was saying it was considerably longer. He was saying it was coming at 6.9 or something.
Mhm.
I didn't have that issue. I think it was closer to actual distance. But um yeah, it was just that feeling that it was longer than it was. And there was a lot of different changes of surfaces. There was like a bit of sand at one point. There's a lot of sort of that gravelly rooted Australian, fire trail type of surface. There was grass.
Mm,
Um, but there were just, yeah, there were never any long, smooth stretches apart from the start and the finish. And it felt like you were constantly losing time on each lap.
right.
So it just, particularly the night, it just felt like it got more and more difficult as each lap went past to go about the loop. It's not the kind of course that you can just switch off and run, which I believe is the case with. I mean, Sat Champs was more like that, definitely. but it was just a simple out and back in either direction.
Yeah, yeah. I did read some comments from people saying that like like they needed an extra bright head torch and
Yeah.
maybe a hand torch as well.
Yeah, and I think Phil was using a hand torch towards the end. I had my head torch. I'd actually asked my crew to bring extra batteries because they have the same type of head torch. So I had 3 batteries, and I was just running that thing on absolute full blast the entire time,
Yeah,
just to try and make out as much of the course as possible.
yeah,
So yeah, it definitely helped because there were a couple of places that were just really prone to kicking your foot up or even just not landing very softly.
yeah,
Yeah, each one takes its toll. You put your
yeah.
foot down a bit too hard, do that a couple of hundred times, and then you're done.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. Yeah, yeah. And when there was just the three of you left, did the dynamic change at all, or was it just go about as business as usual?
Yeah, I think it changed a little bit. Obviously, because Jimmy's a real easy guy to talk to, and yeah, he real easy going. So you almost feel like that part of the race is missing now. I mean, Ryan's good to talk to as well.
Mm,
But very down to business and very focused on just sort of pushing through. But yeah, he and I obviously would pop past each other very occasionally, check in on each other, have a chat, see how things are going. I know Ryan was definitely starting to struggle with just a few things that were going on towards the end. And so yeah, there was that sense of, we're getting, it just felt like it was harder
yeah,
than what Sat Champs was.
yeah,
Yeah, there was not that sense that we'd be able to just keep pushing through for another day and another night.
yeah. Was there when it was just the three of you, were you running together at all with you and Ryan, or any combinations at all?
No, because Ryan and I have slightly different pace strategies. Ryan he pretty much just plugs along at a pretty solid, reasonable pace, but with very few walk breaks. Whereas I prefer to run that little bit faster and break up the runs into a few nice walk breaks.
Yeah,
Even towards the end, where I'm sort of really struggling, I still try and get in that sort of style of running. Whereas, yeah, I think when things get tough for Ryan, he goes into that battle mode where he just switches off, sort of looks straight ahead and just goes.
yeah,
It just doesn't stop.
yeah.
Incredible mind on him.
Yeah. Well, in all the videos I saw of Ryan, he was looking really strong, and people were
Mm.
messaging. I was getting messages from, "Oh, Ryan's looking really strong," and the next thing I knew, he dropped out. So, did you knew he was having issues though? Did you?
Yeah, he'd had to go to the bathroom like 3 or 4 times. I don't know how much he spoke about it after that, so I don't want to, obviously speak too much. But
Yeah.
yeah, he said he'd had to go to the bathroom quite a few times. He was having sort of struggles down there. I think he'd had some chafe issues as well.
Yeah.
Um, and he had mentioned that the course felt long for him, like it was taking him longer than it would normally for a lot of the courses that he'd done before. I'm assuming like Clint Eastwood, those sorts of things. It just felt like he said he had a minute or two less than what he would normally have,
Yeah.
and that was just starting to build up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it was just a cumulative thing for him, I think. And yeah, it just sounded like it wasn't his day, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
yeah, he sounded satisfied when he sort of did have a chat to me and say, "Mate, I'm done. I'm going back in."
Yeah.
So yeah, he did tell Phil and myself before sort of heading back that he was calling it. But yeah, so it wasn't a shock. But yeah, in many ways it was kind of crazy that it was just the two of us by that stage.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, it just came down to you and Phil, and you were in PB land. You may have heard on the podcast before when I've spoken to people who are the assist to Phil. Um, they've just resigned themselves to a feeling or a belief that I'm up against Phil Gore. I'm not going to win. But what was your mindset like?
I mean, it is very difficult because I think Phil hides any sort of weakness very well.
Yeah,
He's just an incredible athlete. I mean, he's the whole package, and so it's difficult to see whether or not he's having any sort of struggle at all. Um, but to be honest, I wasn't really thinking about that at all. I was just trying to get as far into that PB. I was thinking about bigs, potentially trying to qualify for it, but
Mm,
also knowing, I mean, at 76, I was really starting to feel things. And after that, which was the PB loop, I think my pace really started to fall off.
mm.
I was very happy just to hang on for four more loops after that because I think they were coming in at that 57 minutes for a few consecutively. So it was, yeah, it was. I knew I was reaching the point of sort of my physical limits for that particular course.
Well, it definitely looks like you left every single last drop of what you had out there. And the footage of you finishing that 80th yard, it was pretty stirring stuff. Like it looked like your body had had enough, and it looked like
Yeah.
you were almost. It looked like your body was almost shutting down. Um,
Yeah,
so was that like pretty sudden, or was it like, or was that around the 76, and then it was just a quickly
it
downhill?
it was about that 76, and I pulled off a couple of minutes, and I'm like, all right, I know I can do 56s and 57s, still get in, still get stuff. There's nothing wrong with my feet at the moment. I did have to go to the bathroom a couple of times, and that would sort of, you'd lose 30 seconds there. Um, but yeah, it was this gradual slow burn. I mean, I think maybe if there was some sort of carrot, I mean, Biggs is a huge carrot, so even then, I needed 83 to get on the current at large list.
Yeah,
But even that was just so far away compared to how much was hurting in there. That 80, I'd like to think it's not because it was a nice round number. I think it just happened to be the point at which the body started to go, you can't maintain even that pace anymore. So the three before that were well within myself, whereas that 80th loop was, yeah, basically pushing well beyond what the body really felt was ideal.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the footage you would have seen. There's some really good footage of you getting out of the chair to start that 81st yard, and looking at that video and your face. It looks like you knew the race was over, but you must be glad that you still got up out of the chair and at least started that 81st yard.
Yeah, though I am wishing now in hindsight that I'd actually made a genuine attempt at the lap. But yeah,
Right. Yeah.
in my mind, I knew I was done. And once you reach that point, as I'm sure you're aware, Pato, it's just the thought of just walking out a lap. And it just seems so pointless that you just want to stop. And yeah, I actually think I have a theory that it's more difficult to time out the longer you go,
Yeah.
just because each lap feels like it's just getting longer and longer and longer, even though it's the same length. But yeah, it's just the enormity of doing another lap just becomes so vast that yeah, in your mind, it's difficult to even process. So it's,
Yeah.
it's easy just to go out for a bit and then come back after everyone stops shouting at you.
I mean, looking at the start of the video, I might be wrong, but it looks like Phil was kind of like offering to like support you and to get another yard in. Is that what happened? Or
Yeah, yeah. And I mean that's Phil, isn't it? He wants it to go as long as possible, I think. And he goes, but I think after a while I said, look, I said to Phil, look, I really do think this is it, Phil.
yeah,
And he goes, well, I'm not going to stop you from turning around, but but you've got to make that decision. And I'm like, yeah, all right. And then everybody else sort of came around the corner and were shouting me to continue. So I did for a little bit. Walked a couple of 100 meters, turned around, and then sort of had a bit of a stumble. And I'm like,
right.
I think I'm done.
Yeah. Um, could you believe it when Phil ran that last yard in 33 minutes?
Oh yeah, yeah. That doesn't surprise me. Um, which yeah, he was still looking really strong, and that's ultimately the thing is to get to that point.
Mm,
I still hold out hope that I can sort of make some changes and get to a better spot at 80 yards. I mean, I'm still fairly new at this, so
yeah.
But it does make me, you can see that at least one person's capable of doing these sorts of feats. That yeah, it's just a case of getting the experience of doing these things, building your systems, and getting the appropriate training in and doing that sort of stuff. But yeah, wasn't surprised at all that Phil ran
Yeah.
it back.
And how's the recovery going? Have you started running again?
No, I haven't been for a run yet. I've got a little bit of swelling just around my sort of left calf,
Mm.
which just as a precaution, I'm just holding off running in the interim. Went for a walk today, feeling fine. So I'll definitely start walking pretty solidly again next week, and then hopefully, yeah, also build in a couple of shorter runs as it just lets it lie down. Based on stat champs, it will be a couple of days before it's
Mm.
completely, well, a couple of weeks it was before it goes completely back to normal. But it didn't seem to be worried all that much about introducing running again. So yeah, I'll do the same thing again.
Yeah. Do you feel like you're recovering a little bit faster after each event?
Yeah, and I think that comes down to that experience, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It seems that your body becomes more apt and more adept at adapting.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it understands what has to be done during and after. So it goes, all right, let's get ready for the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, so you did mention bigs. And that 80 yards, I mean, it very well could get you to bigs after non-acceptances and everything like that. It all depends on the results of other races. And you could still go further at Dead Cow Gully as well. So
That's it.
how seriously are you taking bigs?
I mean, it's something that I want to do at least once.
Yeah,
Like backyards, I definitely need to keep doing this thing until I truly feel that I've reached my absolute potential,
yeah,
which, it's exciting to think that there's still potential for growth in the space. Um, and yeah, I definitely want to do bigs just for the experience to say that I have done it. I don't know if it's the kind of thing that I want to go back multiple times. It's just logistically, it's quite difficult. Like it's a very expensive trip to get over there, as I understand. Like it's as a backyard, it's not particularly easy. It
Mm.
sounds like it's typical Laz type of deal where it is what it is, and you've got to work out your own problems.
So Dead Cow Gully, I mean, Dead Cow Gully is the perfect race for you to go absolutely berserk and cement your spot on the bigs at large list. I mean, do you still need some time to really start thinking about Dead Cow Gully because we're still pretty Sydney's was only a week ago, or are you starting to froth over Dead
Oh
Cow
no, I'm
Gully?
starting to froth. I watched was it Unlimited
Yeah,
literally,
yeah,
literally the other day. Which hits differently when you know the athletes, by the way, because the first time that I watched that, I didn't really know any of them
yeah,
personally. So
yeah,
when you actually know the guys, you're like, "Whoa, that's actually fair bit." I mean, and I had obviously just run a very long way myself, but yeah,
yeah.
it was. Yeah, I'm already got one eye to going further, and yeah, definitely want to be. I think I'm in the top 10 of the runners announced, but I think I'm 10th.
Right.
So I'll be gunning to work my way up the list, that's for sure. And yeah, getting an outright bigs lap number would be sort of priority number one. But even then, I think it's beyond that. Yeah, I mean, it would be great to be the second Australian past 100 laps.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Um, I do have some questions lined up for that, but before I get to that, as far as learnings from Sydney's goes, have you thought about any little things you might tinker with as far as your race plan and strategy goes for Dead Cow
Yeah,
Gully?
yeah, I need to just pip down the pace a little bit. I went out a little bit too hot. Particularly in that first day. Getting the extra sleep was good, but I think I can probably pull back a couple of minutes both in the just the regular loop as well as the faster loop that I was using for sleep, etc.
Mm.
And still get everything I need to get done. And I'm confident that that will reduce the slowdown in the third and fourth days. So yeah, I think I just went out too fast, which is such a rookie mistake to make.
Yeah.
But I was kind of Sydney was always going to be a bit experimental for me. I'm like, I'm going to try this bold strategy. Well, not that bold. I mean, obviously Phil does his thing, but um, it's easy to see what he does, and I don't think there's many people in the world that can replicate that system. So you've got to come up with your own approach, and yeah, gave it a shot. But there's definitely a few adjustments to be made just to help myself go a little bit longer.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from what you were saying about the Sydney's course and its surface, and especially at night time, I mean, the Dead Cow Gully nighttime course on the road, that will make things so much easier for you.
It sounds like a dream because most of my running, just my training running, is just done around the local streets here. So it's gonna, and it's usually at night or very early morning as well. So it's gonna basically just be like running locally. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to having a night course where you can just pop some music in and switch off. Will be good.
Unreal. Now, the backyard ultra scene in Sydney, it's really taking off. And not just because of the races that are happening there, but there seems to be like a really strong community with a lot of passionate backyard ultra fans. Like Clayton Talbot's really a big driver of that with the Backyard Ultra Run Club, which I know you're an active member of as well.
Right. Yep. Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's great having that sort of community. I mean, we've got the WhatsApp chat which I believe you're in as well, and
Yeah.
yeah, just it's good for just passing banter, for organising runs, for doing all sorts of things. So yeah, socially things have come along just incredibly in the last 2 years. Clayton's been a huge sort of driving force into that happening too. So yeah, it's fantastic. And I mean, I think we're a little bit late to the party over here in Sydney compared to some of the other areas of the country. But yeah, we're definitely catching up quick.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So one thing is for certain that 80 yards will get you is a spot on the Australian team next year at Reds. So it's a long way off, but it's safe to say you'll be there.
Oh yeah, I mean it's the local one as well. That's yeah.
Yeah,
We'll be there, and yeah, we'll be definitely looking to go even further. I mean, it really depends on what happens this year, but yeah, I can see. I think there's a lot more space for Australia as a team to be a little bit more of an actual team, like closer to what Belgium were doing.
yeah,
Um, how we go about that, I don't know whether I'm the person to answer those questions, but yeah, I definitely think that just yeah, we are developing a more of a team culture, but yeah, um, that can only help going even longer again. And I think we should be looking at the Belgians and eyeing ourselves off and saying, well, maybe we can go for number one.
yeah. I reckon. I guess one of the good things, one of the great things, it feels like it's the Australian backyard ultra community is gelling more for such a big country. It's hard to get all the best runners running against each other a lot, but it
Mm.
is happening more often now, and I think it's making a big difference.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point, Pato. That's the fact that just because we're so sparse, you have these good guys, but they're always sort of sticking to their own race. But yeah, we do seem to be. I think we're getting enough athletes now as well that are able to contest these races. And there's sort of a willingness to travel as well, and for race organisers also to pay for people to come over, which I fully support. It's yeah, it makes the race more interesting. Um, and yeah, you do definitely get these more competitive totals.
Mm. Now there'll be quite a few people between now and Sat Chance next year wanting to make the team.
Mm.
Similar to you last year. So what would your advice be to someone who is trying to make the team and they want to figure out the best approach for qualifying?
I mean, I think the easiest approach will be to target those silver ticket races
Mm,
because, I mean, I think there's everybody wants to qualify off the at-large list, but I think it's getting that competitive, and particularly we'll see how things sort of pan out after Dead Cow.
mm,
But it's really difficult to go that far in a race because you need two people to do it.
yeah,
And so, yeah, I would definitely have, I was very sort of keen to get on that that at-large list would be targeting those silver ticket races now. So I
yeah,
think most of them, with the exception of one, are open next year.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we've got Shepparton this year, and then there's 4 next
Yeah.
year. Yeah, so Victoria has theirs this year.
And I think that the places that they're at will be more competitive as well
Yeah,
then compared to last year because they had is the Gumby, which is, I mean, I think the Gumby's a really cool race, but it's not super competitive and it's very sort of hilly, so it doesn't attract those ultra long runners. And yeah, so it's a case of, I think the races this year will be more competitive.
mm,
Yeah, it's the only way to guarantee an entry still because getting a 60 plus event is far from a guarantee anywhere, even for your major backyards.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think 51 yards what what the qualifying mark for the
Oh,
last
yeah.
year's team. What do you reckon will be? What would you reckon the qualifying mark will be next year?
I was worried that 75 would be enough for a while there. But I've kind of looked at, yeah, a few of you fall into this trap of thinking that, once one, you go to Sat Champs and you think that every backyard is going to be like Sat Champs from here on after. I mean, Sydney hasn't helped that perception, but yeah, I think it's still a rarity for things to go that far. But I still think you're probably going to see just that progression around the country. There seems to be still growing interest in these events.
Yeah,
And so you're going to have these athletes that are naturally talented or are putting in the work that are able to sort of have the exposure that they need to do it a couple of times, build up, which I think is the case with most of them. Can be the most talented runner out there, but you probably still need to do 2 or 3 backyards before you're hitting that sort of 2 day mark.
mm,
I think it's safe to say
yeah, sure.
we're getting to that stage now where, yeah, that's the case. So I would imagine that, yeah, being in the low 60s wouldn't be out of the question for qualifying. I think that's probably about right.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, most of the team from last Sat Champs have qualified. I mean, made
Yeah.
it to the 60s. So yeah, and they're all on quite large list for next year too. So
And I think that was the case the year before, wasn't it? A lot
yeah,
of qualifiers were from either
yeah,
bigs or from Sat Chance themselves. So
yeah.
the way it goes.
So we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast that your last 2 races, you've run a combined total of 155 yards. And Phil has been the constant denominator in those yards. He's been in every single one of them. So, I mean, you've spoken about him a little bit, but is there anything specific about him you've noticed that makes him so good?
Um, I mean, he has pretty much everything he needs to be a good backyard ultra runner. His system is, I'm assuming, the best in the business. I don't know everybody else's system, but he clearly has a system that works very, very well. A crew that enables him to sort of act on that system and plan sort of flawlessly. He's a small guy, so it doesn't take much for him to get around on a particular loop. He's a fit guy,
Mm,
so it doesn't take much exertion to get around on a loop. Um, and so he's just everything that you would want. And I'm assuming that he's also incredibly good at putting up with sleep deprivation. I mean, he's a shift worker after all. So
mm,
it's yeah, so
yeah,
it makes sense that he's just he's got the whole package when it comes to the attributes that you'd need to be good at this sort of event. Um, yeah, it's hard to sort of pick a fault.
yeah.
Yeah, I won't try.
So we did talk a little bit before about breaking 100, and I think that anyone who goes 80 yards in a backyard ultra naturally is going to be seen as someone who's capable of
Mm.
breaking 100. So, I mean, you've already mentioned that it's something that you want to do. So, you obviously believe you can do it. I was going to ask, how does that sit with you? But yeah. So, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, before Sydney, I had trouble sort of articulating it. People were asking me, "Oh, what number would you be satisfied with?" And I said, you kind of have to set a number that's up there that scares you. They say, you can't have a comfortable number to move on to. And yeah, when you hit that 80 mark, it's very much a case of, well, would you really be happy with the 90s?
Mm,
I mean, sometimes you would. Like, as I said, I wanted to hit 83, and 80 was literally all that I had.
yeah,
But that doesn't mean you don't aim for something higher again. So yeah, definitely, I definitely feel like I can do it. Like, just the right things coming together at the right time. I was on top of sleep, mostly on top of things like feet blisters and stuff like that. Yeah, it just takes sort of being able to ride out one more night
yeah,
to get through to that 100, I think, is all that it takes.
yeah, sure. What time did Sydney's begin? Was it
It was eight.
10? Oh, 8 in the morning. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So it was pretty standard start time.
Yeah. Yeah, unreal. Yeah, well, I mean, look, Dead Cow Gully, it's going to be good.
Oh, it's going to be incredible. It's yeah. And there's just going to be so many other people there too. Like, I mean, there's a whole slew of 50 plus runners. There's a whole bunch of 30 and 40 plus runners, as well as all of the general entries. Like, we've just got a whole bunch of people from Sydney I know coming up. Um, it's going to be yeah, it's going to be like a Sat Champs reunion too.
Oh,
Yeah, it's going to be great.
yeah, it's going to be unreal. So what else do you have planned? Is it just backyard ultras this year? Dead Cow Gully, hopefully bigs. Anything
Yeah,
else?
I mean, I think last time we spoke, I talked about the idea of doing coast to Cozzy, but backyards have become all consuming for the moment, at least.
Yeah,
I've had stuff going on, with work and with my house, just obviously trying to do renovations and things, but all that stuff kind of gets put on hold when training ramps up, and then you do the events, and it takes you a couple of weeks to recover, and you're not really doing anything then either. So it's like, um, yeah, I don't think there's enough space in my life to train for anything else that's just that crazy. And yeah, I think I've got 4 backyards planned. I mean,
right,
I might do one or two for fun. Might do, like, I think, Narrabeen all nighter,
right, yeah,
one that a couple of the Sydney guys did last time, and I felt like I kind of missed out. And then there was
yeah,
24 park runs looked fun as well. But
yeah,
yeah, they're all, they're more fun than anything else.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I'll
Uh,
be entering anything else that's sort of that high stakes, really got to focus and train for. At least not yet.
yeah. So you said you've got 4 plans. So Dead Cow Gully, hopefully bigs. Sat Champs, is that one of the 4?
No, so it'll be Sydney's obviously, Dead Cow Gully, hoping Bigs, and then, sorry, hoping I'll have Reds in August,
Oh, oh
and
yeah,
then hopefully Bigs.
yeah, cool.
So
Okay.
in theory, Reds could be another shot at Bigs. I don't quite know if we've got the right people coming, but maybe me saying that will fire up the people who are coming.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Sounds good. Yeah, look, I mean, I love following your running journey. I mean, you're one inspirational guy, and I reckon a lot of people will take inspiration from your journey. From like you literally came out of nowhere, and now like you're on top of the backyard ultra like tree. Like you
Yes,
can't.
it's hard to fathom, really. As I said, it's all happened so quickly that I just feel like a regular guy. Here I am having run. I mean, I appreciate that what I've done is like insane. It's just, yeah, I honestly don't know what separates me from other people. It's just, yeah, I just, yeah, I like having a good time and getting out there and running.
Yeah. Well, that's unreal. I mean, that you can have a good time. That's what drives these backyard numbers is you have a good time doing it. Would you say that that is the key to
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
your secret?
It's all about the vibes, Pato.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just roll along, have people around you that can, crack a joke, even if it's your expense.
yeah.
Just have fun.
I love it. I love it. Well, congratulations again. I asked you for three backyard ultra tips not all that long ago, but if you've got any new ones, you may as well
Yeah.
throw them out
Yeah.
there.
I actually did. I'd prepared a couple, but
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how useful they are. But yeah, what was here we go. So my one, I mean, it's hard thinking of ones for that are applicable for normal people. I guess it's but I'd say focusing on the basics for most people is really important. That means both in training, just getting like the minimum amount of gear, making sure you've got enough food, making sure you have a plan.
Mm,
Because there is that tendency, because I mean, obviously you've had a lot of guests on here, and there's all these really, important minuscule tips, like, have cocoa pops with chocolate milk, which by the way is amazing.
yeah. Yeah.
But you get too sort of bogged down in the details that you miss the bigger picture, that, you still have to go out and train and
Mm,
actually do a minimum amount of work in order to be able to succeed. It certainly makes it a whole lot easier.
yeah.
So that'll be my first tip. Second was to you have to have sort of an adaptive mindset out there, like, because stuff just comes up constantly, and it's always, every backyard's been different for me, and you need to go, well, okay, when there's a problem that you encounter, you have to go, well, how am I going to fix this? Like, what mitigation strategies can I use? Preferably, you should have stuff pre-prepared in your plan. You should certainly have things available. Like, you should be thinking ahead of time if this problem. But sometimes there'll be stuff that comes up, and you've just got to think, well, how do I achieve this outcome with what I have at hand? Things like, we needed ice and stuff, what do you call, like an ice slushy I really wanted on the fourth day, but
Right.
obviously having one right away, but they had Zupa Dupas there, so they just crushed them up and things like, it's just little things like that.
Yeah.
Just you know, little problem solving things, just where you just come up with stuff on the fly is really important.
Mm,
Um and yeah, the other one was just have fun, stay positive. Because, running is hard. Like, it it is hard for everybody, even early on.
yeah.
And the only way you can get through it is to just kind of accept that that's the case and just enjoy it for what it is. It's
Yeah.
this beautiful torture that we're putting ourselves through.
Yeah. Yeah. I think being able to just focus and troubleshoot for such a long time
Mm,
is so important, because that's like one moment you can be feeling really good, and then without even realizing it, something switches in my
yeah,
brain anyway. Sometimes and all of a sudden I don't even know why, I just have this negative mindset that's come out of absolutely nowhere. Um, and it's something that's I'm better at avoiding, but it still comes when
yeah.
things start feeling physically hard.
Have
Um,
you have you tried getting angry?
Angry.
Because I actually found it Sydney, yeah, exactly. That some stuff started to go wrong, and there wasn't an immediate fix to it.
Yeah,
And instead of getting down on myself, I just kind of got really annoyed.
yeah,
And I let out like a quite a annoyed shout as I started off, and
yeah,
just got this adrenaline boost. And I'm like, hang on, this is all right. I can use this. It's just like
yeah.
so
That,
sometimes that can come in handy too. Just, and that's the thing, is you use your emotions to suit your purposes. If
yeah,
that's what you need to G yourself up, if you're not feeling like Mr. Positive, then you can be Mr. Angry. It still
yeah,
works. It
yeah,
accomplishes the same goal.
yeah, yeah. Cool. I love it. Well, thanks heaps for coming on again, and congratulations on two outstanding performances. I can't wait to see what you do at Dead Cow Gully, and I'm really looking forward to catching up with you there as well.
Yeah, it's going to be an absolute blast, but I can't wait either. It's going to
Yeah.
be huge.
Awesome. Well, don't go anywhere. I'll hit stop on this, but thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, cheers, better.